My name is Steve Jameson. I go by the brush name of CEDAR when I'm working on my landscapes. Today, I want to walk through the steps of this watercolor behind me, how I made decisions along the way. I did something new with this watercolor that I've never done before. I used sepia colors to establish the darks and the lights as an underpainting before I went into the color. I'll tell you why I did that. For one thing, I like my images of old Myrtle Beach houses that I love very much to have a nostalgic feel about them, kind of a longing for the past and memories of my experience living here in Myrtle Beach. So I photographed the houses at sunset when the evening glow of the sunset lighting the houses gives it kind of an old past memory feel about it because it's the end of the day. And so that's why I like to use sepia undertones in my paintings. And then also the using sepia without full color helps me establish the darks and lights in a composition. In fact, I really enjoy working from black and white photographs because then I can really work out the dark and light composition of the painting without worrying about the color, and then work out the color composition later. I've done this for many years with oil and acrylic paintings, so it's easy to paint over your sepia underpainting because oils and acrylics are solid colors that are opaque. With transparent watercolor, that's going to be tricky. This is the first time I've tried it, and I learned some lessons. I can use it a little bit, but not very much, because the transparent watercolors don't cover up the sepia that's underneath them. That's what transparent means. So then you can end up with kind of dull colors if you're not very careful. Here's the photograph of the house that I'm working from here. You can see that I took an old Myrtle Beach house, and I decided to cut this part off and just keep this area here. If you want to know more about my work, you can find my entire resume on Wikipedia under Steve Jameson. I've won hundreds of national level watercolor awards. And finally, I was able to get entered into the National Watercolor Society, which took about 10 years for me. There's only about 800 living signature members of the National Watercolor Society. And it says national in its name, but there's artists from all over the world who enter into their competitions. One more thing I want to say about transparent watercolor. I have illustrated all my life for a living, so I feel very accomplished at it, but I didn't discover watercolor or even attempt it until I was in my late 40s. And it was really very exciting time for me. It was a new challenge because I found watercolors to be so difficult. And I never knew that I would find a new challenge in the field of illustration. My first watercolors were horrible. It took a long time. People may not realize how difficult watercolor is. It has a reputation for being something that preschool children do. In fact, most art galleries refuse to sell watercolors because they can't get a good price for them. The public seems to think that if it's oil on canvas, it's worth more. More and more artists, really good, fine artists, are realizing that watercolor can be much more sublime and elegant and difficult. you have to work backwards. Anything that you want white has to be left white because that's the color of the paper. Then you build up your colors gradually, layer after layer, until you finally add your final darkest layers. You can't paint over a transparent watercolor. What you have is what you get. You can't paint over it. You can't hide anything. So I can't think of anything else to tell you before we get started. I'm going to jump right into showing you the sepia underpainting when we get started here. Well, I think I have finished the sepia undertones for this watercolor. The camera is showing them to be very reddish, but in reality, it's more golden tones. I needed to do this under layer in sepia tone to establish my dark and lights without being distracted by colors that can be very distracting to your eye when you're trying to decide what should be darker or lighter. And that's why I used this black and white photo that I had printed out so that I could understand the tones better. Whereas this is a color photo of the house. Now I get to do the exciting part of adding color today. Notice at the bottom of this paper, these horrible looking marks. That came from the way the paper was processed in the factory. And what is extremely maddening about that is that it won't show up when you start your watercolor. You can put many, many hours and days and months of work into a watercolor, and then suddenly these marks show up because of how the paper was processed at the factory. Okay, next video we should see some color. Now you can see we're beginning to put in a little bit of color glazing over the sepia tone. I've actually never heard of anyone watercoloring this technique by sepia tone first and then overlaying color. But I did it for two reasons. I wanted to establish a strong base of light and dark and medium tones because I think it makes a more strong dynamic composition. It anchors it very well. And also because I like the way sepia tone photographs give a picture a nostalgic look, which is what I wanted for these beach colors. I wanted a kind of a longing, heart-aching feeling for the past, for a dream, like a vision at the end of the day towards sunset time. And that's what sepia tone adds to an image. Moving along with this watercolor, added the color in the sand, the roof line, the dark green for the shrubbery. Now I'm getting ready to add more bright colors here and there. Well, we're getting very close to being finished with this watercolor. I gave the sky a shade darker, put the green color on the siding of the house, painted the awnings, the windows and doors, and I put some color in the light areas of the bush. I'm trying to decide if the bushes are still too bright and if they're distracting from the house, which is the main focal point of the sign. So I may live with this for a few days and decide if I'm going to darken the bushes any or leave them bright. Well, now the watercolor is finally finished. I only can find one day a week in my schedule to do watercolors, so I do them every Saturday. And this one took me 4 or 5 Saturdays to finish, all day long each Saturday. Now you see the finished product here. I'm very, very happy with it. I especially love the refreshing color of the mint green on that house. I've never done one quite like that. and I'm very, very pleased with how the sky came out. I like to do a solid, clear sky with no clouds, no light or dark areas, no sunrise or sunset, just a clear sky. And that's very challenging to do with watercolors, to get all that color spread across the paper without having any brush marks or more dark puddles of paint here and there. Just to get it one solid color is very difficult. Now, one thing I'm not happy with in this painting is the shrubbery. I like it, but it doesn't seem to be the same style or technique as the rest of the painting. It's a more loose, graphic look than the rest of the painting. If next time I do a piece, I may not do shrubbery like that in the future. I may try to make it look a little bit more lacy and subtle and detailed and not quite so bold, so it fits in with the style of the rest of my painting. But I've learned from the experience. I also, when I prepare to frame this piece, I'm gonna have to crop off right about here because of all the flaws that were in the paper that I didn't notice until I started doing the watercolor. But I think that'll still be nice. It'll give it a horizontal flow to it. I entered this watercolor into the annual exhibit of the National Watercolor Society, but I may not have been accepted. I haven't heard back from them in about a month, so maybe not this year. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I plan to make many more in the future, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. Tell your friends about me if you like, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Before we go, I thought I would like to talk a little bit about art competitions. I have different experiences and different thoughts about them. I've entered several and have won several awards. When you have won a series of awards and you can put that on your resume, it helps buyers of your artwork have more confidence in the value of your work, especially people who are not artists and consider artwork a financial investment. To hear that a body of accomplished artists have given you awards helps them feel more confident. On the other hand, there's a lot to be said about just loving a piece of artwork that you see, regardless of what other people may think about it. That's one interesting subject. It might be thought that entering competitions makes an artist better because the artist is striving hard to get better and better at their skills to win a competition. Maybe that's true. I don't know. I know for myself that I am constantly wanting to improve my art, even during the years when I'm not entering competitions, just because I want to create something that's even more sublime, more elegant, more beautiful, more uplifting and inspiring for the viewer. I'm constantly trying to be more and more perfect at that, regardless of competitions. Then there's a couple of interesting stories I can tell you that I've had in experience with competitions. I don't like a feeling among judges of art competitions that seems political to me. Whatever the style that's in favor at the time If you do that, the judges like it. If you do something that's not in style at the time, they don't like it and they won't give you an award. So what happens when you're not interested in the current style? As for myself, I really don't care about abstract painting. It's like wallpaper to me, maybe pretty wallpaper, but I don't get too interested in it. Maybe it's kind of like background music you can put in a commercial building. I'm not overly excited about that, but it's very popular right now among the art community. One example I can explain is Thomas Kincaid. I love his artwork. I can't get enough of it. I've bought several prints. I really love going through his galleries, having that experience. I feel like I've been to heaven for an hour. But most fine artists hate his work. They hate realism. They hate sweetness. They hate what's pretty. He's the one making millions of dollars, not them. So somebody likes his work. I once had a friend tell me that his work made them feel like they were going to vomit. And I thought to myself, well, you're not going to like heaven when you get there, because his paintings look like heaven to me. But a couple of interesting experiences that I've had with competitions. I was, for several years, entering local competition in my part of the state of South Carolina. And several years I would win awards. Several times I won first place. One year I was at the awards gathering, and the judge walked up to me and said, well, to begin, let me tell you, each artist was allowed to enter up to 2 pieces of artwork. So he came up to me and he said, I gave your one of your pieces of artwork best in show, and I wanted to give the other piece first place, but the little old ladies who run this competition would not allow me to do it. They said, you have won too many awards, and they want to be more fair to everyone and give awards to other people that the judge did not think were as good. So he said, I just wanted you to know I wanted to give you 2 awards, and they wouldn't allow it. Then another even more interesting experience involves this watercolor back here. This was actually in the beginning of my watercolor days, and I feel like I've advanced since then. But I entered that in the local competition, and the judge is always some prominent artist invited from out of town, usually an inter-university teacher. So this one came from Columbia, South Carolina to Myrtle Beach to judge the show. And after she had judged the show and given all the awards, she gave a tour of the show with all the participants following around behind her through the museum from room to room as she explained each award she had given and why she gave it. And we went through and saw dozens of awards. And then finally, we came to the last room, and she walked up to this painting of mine. And she said, this is the last thing I want to discuss before we end our gathering here. She said, in my opinion, this is the very best painting in the entire exhibit, but I refuse to give it an award because it's a damn beach house. She said, I'm so sick and tired of you Myrtle Beach people thinking that you can just get away with painting old beach houses. And I know why you do it. You do it because you can sell it to the tourists here. You need to wake up and realize that Myrtle Beach is a growing international town like Las Vegas, and they're more sophisticated out there. You guys need to wake up and get sophisticated and worldly and stop painting these ridiculous little old beach houses. Start painting something more modern. more interesting to the international market. Get with it, you guys. So I don't know what she wants us to paint. Abstracts, super hyper realistic. I don't know. But I said to myself right then and there, I'm not entering any more competitions. I'll show these people. I will make money selling my artwork, not entering exhibits with mentally ill judges. Since that time, no, I've not sold much artwork. I'm not good at promoting myself, making contacts. I'm more comfortable making artwork and trying to make it better and better and to please myself and inspire other people. I've just never been good enough of a businessman or social enough to network to really market my art. So no, it's not making money for me, but I'm happy doing it. I feel like this is one of the reasons I incarnated and want to make as much beautiful artwork as I can. And now I'm enjoying making these videos. I think it's very important to entertain people. I think entertaining humans, keeping them uplifted and entertained and positive and happy is a very important job. And that's what I like to do and make as sublime artwork as I can. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys about my experiences with art shows, judged competitions. One thing that I really do like about them is it introduces each of us artists to other artists' artwork. So we get exposed to other really good quality artwork. And when the catalog of the art exhibit comes out, I always enjoy looking through it and seeing if there's any other artwork in there that might influence paths of change that I'm needing to make in my artwork or seeking to make. I get inspired in that way. All right, thank you for listening. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.